Coming at you live from all over Ohio. A Cleveland Browns podcast full of laughs, rants, fun, and stats. A place where all Browns fans' voices are welcome and heard. A show that aims to inform and entertain you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Barking Browns Show.
Happy Tuesday to you all out there in Cleveland Browns land. Welcome in to episode 115 of the Barking Browns Show. I'm Jacob. That's Nick. We're brought to you as always by our friends over at Homage Apparel. We got the Nick Chubb Blitz shirt going on over there. I got the Stiff Arm Brownie, the Elf, Vote Elf, just to put that out there. So there's a link in the description down below if you want to go check out their Cleveland Browns Select collection for Homage. Softest, best vintage apparel company you're going to find on the market. And I'm not just saying that because they pay me to say that, but also because I think that. So both things. You want to go check out our Discord. We got a little community going on over there. If you want to get access to the VIP channels, that includes our bet slips that are put in by Zach and the betting team over there. You can find a description down, a link in the description down below. But real quick, one tough thing to talk about real quick before we push on is we have one of our own that needs your help. And our good friend Tyler Johnson, his mother-in-law has cancer, and they're in the process of battling that cancer. And it is my understanding that she is a total joy that lights up the room, any room that she walks into, and they're already, starting to get up to their eyeballs in medical bills, and we know how this country is when it comes to those sorts of things. So if you are able, there's a link in the description down below to the GoFundMe to help pay for those medical expenses. And if you're not able, just share it with somebody that may be able. And we really appreciate that. The network, of course, will be putting some proceeds from some of these videos towards that as well. So
every retweet helps. It's a tough situation for everybody. I think it was pretty sudden on them, and I think we all know somebody that's been touched by cancer in our lives. It's a tough thing. So any support will be infinitely appreciated. Helps all of us. We're a family here at Network 216, and so we're thinking about Tyler and his family and his mother-in-law and everybody involved. So we're hoping that we get some good news moving forward.
Yeah. So we are here. The main topic tonight, we're going to look at some of the evolutions of the offense. We've talked about it at nauseum this offseason. Kind of what are you going to see? You're going to see more throwing the ball, but not just that. It's very easily to be like, oh, that's how it's going to evolve. They're going to throw the ball 50 times a game instead of 25 times a game and run the ball 25 and have kind of a very, very even split down the middle or something like that. They're going to potentially evolve this thing. And that's an easy thing to say, but we're going to talk about some of the evolutions that we've already seen. We've talked about them. We talked about seeing some more diversity in the shotgun run scheme from the Hall of Fame game. But we got to see even more of that, the evolution of the offense Friday when we got to see the starters and we got to see Deshaun Watson and most importantly in this, Elijah Moore. And so we're going to start there. We're going to start with the offensive evolution. We're going to move into, we will probably talk a little bit more about the preseason game. We did a winners and losers pod over the weekend. You can check that out if you want it to be more specific about players. I think when we talk about the game tonight, we're going to talk about some of the overall themes and schematic things and some stuff like that. And we'll also touch on some of the news out of Philadelphia, where the 2 joint practices have wrapped up, and apparently they went 1-1. That's a joke. Don't think I'm serious about that. But yeah, that's what we have going on for you tonight.
You know what? I just want to say that, a few things really is all of a sudden we're like deeply entrenched in Browns football. The regular season hasn't started yet, but it's that time of year. You can feel it in the air that there's multiple games going on. Our last episode in 3 days has done over 5,000 views. We've gained a ton of subs on YouTube, and I just want to say thank you to everybody, because it's just a why can't I think of words? It is such an encouraging thing for us that those episodes do so well. And it's such a great sign of what the future holds for all of us, because we love doing it. And so to see that type of support, to see that type of growth has all of us at Network 216 really motivated. We're excited. We're fired up. We want to do more. So we're not positive of how we're going to do it during the season, when exactly we're going to record, but we promise you have spoken with your views to us that you'd like to see more collaborative review type episodes. So you're going to get them. You're going to get all kinds of Network 216 content, especially during the season. But it's an incredible feeling to have that level of support. So thank you to everybody that has supported us through this. Just talking about a preseason game, that's crazy to me.
Winners and losers in a preseason game, yeah. I mean, because how much can you go into, like, how vanilla is the offense, how, you know what I mean, like all that good stuff. Like, it's like, oh, how much can you actually glean from things like that to make broad overarching statements and that sort of stuff. But yeah, man, to everybody that's new, that's joined, hitched onto this ride and are with us, we really appreciate you. So hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and let's go. So there's some of the offensive evolution stuff, some of the schematic things that we've all already seen now put into motion. In the Hall of Fame game, we saw a lot more diversity in the shotgun run scheme. It's been very well documented, and I know Jake Burns over at the OBR has talked about it a ton on his show, that they basically only ran one style of run game out of the shotgun, and that was pin pull. And this is prior to this year, obviously. And you know, it's more of just a very one of the more basic power schemes. You pull a couple guys, you pin back down. It's a pin pull situation. Come the Hall of Fame game, we see them run almost as much outside and inside zone out of the shotgun in that game that they ran in the regular season in 2022, which tells you a couple of things. One, they want to put it on film. You're not put anything you see in the preseason, they want it on film. Don't get me wrong. They're going to test things. And that's why you're not going to sometimes you'll see very vanilla play calling and you'll see semi stuff, but you're not going to see trick plays in the preseason. Like, they don't want to put that on tape yet.
Yeah.
But they do want you to realize that they're evolving. They want you to know they're going to run inside zone. They're going to run outside and wide zone. They're still going to run their pin pull. And they're very good at the pin pull. But it becomes incredibly predictive, very obvious and easy to predict when that's all you run in those situations. So they're still going to put that stuff out there. They're putting some things on film that they want on there for various reasons so that they can threaten with that style. But also, you put stuff on game tape, you get out there, and you want to make sure it works in live situations.
Yeah.
And against people that are actually trying to hit you. Because you're not really trying to hit and hurt your teammates that much. You're just out there kind of, you're not lollygagging around because it's your teammates, but you're not going all out. It's pretty obvious when you talk about that sort of stuff.
One of like the biggest pushbacks I've gotten, like today I was talking a lot about Jim Schwartz and basically all the players that raved about him, and we can get into that later, but a lot of people were taking the route and saying, well, Jim Schwartz is going to be the head coach. Kevin Stefanski doesn't know what he's doing. He's going to be gone by week 5. All kinds of this today, Jacob. All kinds of it. And really throughout the offseason. And I feel like the narrative surrounding Stefanski is unfair to him, because how do you reasonably ask a coach to have two separate offenses installed for 2 different styles of quarterback in the same year when you need to use one specific offense for the first 11 games? And I made this mistake. I thought they were just going to be able to flip the switch and they would be able to run the Deshaun Watson offense when they came into the year. when he came in against Houston, and that was going to be it. And that was terribly miscalculated on my part. And I think we've seen that. But I feel like the general fan doesn't seem to realize, like, because Stefanski is giving you obvious evidence right now that the offense is adapting to running out of the shotgun more, to using more run schemes while they're in the shotgun, to being able to, because one of the biggest questions we've asked during the offseason is like, is Nick Chubb going to be suited for this offense? Because he hasn't been used as a pass catching back. And so how are they going to involve that, incorporate it? And I think if you're paying attention right now to what the Browns are using schematically, you can see that they are adapting and evolving and installing an offense that's going to be suited to Deshaun. I cannot blame them in any way, shape, or form for running and emphasizing the Jacoby Brissett offense when he was your quarterback for 11 of those games last year. Oh, really, Jeff? Hey, Jeff, you got great taste, man. I'll tell you what.
I'm just impressed Jeff put a shirt on for this, because normally he likes to get a little wild on Tuesday nights.
I'll tell you what. I got
judgment.
No, never. But I have a homage shipment coming, and so I think I'm going to save it for maybe episode 116 or maybe 117, depending on when it gets here, and we'll do a live bag break of those, because I've got a couple spicy ones that some people like.
I knew he was going to say what he said. He said that he's usually naked, so I knew when I said that what I was.
That's just living your best life. And MC Lawrence, people are being so nice today. Shout out to you, MC Lawrence. You know, we've got Jeff, we've got Drew, we've got MC Lawrence, the normal customers and characters. You guys, so it's amazing too that even as we continue growing, you guys are always still here. You guys have been here since the beginning. It means the world to us. Thank you.
And stay tuned. Your dick joke of the week is coming at you.
Love a good dick joke.
At a later date and time. Hey, video's been taken off since we've been making dick jokes, so let's party. So okay. An interesting thing about Elijah Moore, when we talk about the evolution of this offense, when we're talking schematic approaches, how they're going to attack defenses at every conceivable short, intermediate, long, all that stuff. I was listening to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast with Mary Kay and Ashley and Dan. Is it Lobby? That's his name, isn't it? Is it Dan?
Yeah,
Lobby?
I think it's
yeah.
Lobby.
I can never remember how to pronounce. I love it. I just can never remember how to pronounce his name. So I'm sorry, Dave. I said that off to the side like he's over there. I was like, and they pointed out that in Monday's practice without Elijah Moore, the joint practice yesterday, you could see that they missed him on a bunch of different levels. Now, Amari had a kind of a bad day. He dropped several passes yesterday. And so like that was kind of their point, was like, yeah, he's dropping some passes. If he hadn't, the offense would have looked even better than they did. But you could see when they were playing the Eagles that some of that creativity wasn't quite there, because they were missing that linchpin, which worries me a little bit, because he is a small wide receiver. And so, he could take a shot and be out. Now, granted, they all said if the game was today or even Monday, he would have played. Yeah. They're just being precautious because it is sore ribs. But because of that, it does stress me out a little bit. But as an Elijah Moore stan, I'm all for it, man. We saw, we've been talking about what we've seen in training camp, and we're all like, it's just practice. It's training camp. Yeah, you can take some good, you can take some bad, but take it with everything with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. Well, they get to the preseason game, and they show you that everything we believed and thought and have talked about for months, it's happening. It's happening. They started out, and I kid you not, I didn't hit send, but I had this text up for Nick, Tyler, and Zach and no, I had it for the whole group chat, actually.
Oh, wow.
So I was getting ready to type it up, and I was like, look who's in the backfield. Because the very first play, he's in the backfield. They motion him out. They run a little out route for 6 yards like that. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay, you got my attention, gentlemen. And a couple plays later, you're like, you know what? How about this weird jet motion zone read to Elijah Moore for 18 yards?
Yeah.
And you're starting to see it. You're seeing these jet sweeps being brought, the creativity in the offense, the jet sweep, the zone read, RPOs, inside zone, wide zone, pin pull in the shotgun instead of one style. We're already seeing it. So if you had any kind of doubts, I think you go and watch really that. I know the starters only played that first series, but I thought even later with Josh Dobbs, I thought they had done some more stuff. And I thought they had done some stuff in the Hall of Fame game, like we talked about with the gun run and stuff. But if you were like, hey, are they really changing stuff? Go look at these games and tell me, does that offense look like the offense that they've been running for the last 3 years?
No, it doesn't. And that's the most encouraging thing about this offseason is because I listen to Jake Burns a lot.
It's not just talk. It's not just talk. We're seeing it.
Yes, and one of the biggest questions was, how does Stefanski adapt his offense? Because if we're being fair, Stefanski's run generally the same offense since Minnesota, right? That's like you're emphasizing the run. Your
run first, boot play action style of offense with a quarterback that really doesn't create, but he can make the throws that NFL quarterbacks need to make.
Yeah, because I mean, in the mobility of your quarterback dictates a lot of what you can run, right?
Well, that's why he ran that. Yeah,
exactly.
that's what
you don't know if he's gonna. You don't know how he's gonna adapt until he has the skills to adapt to it. And
to be Watson's a true creator. He can create things out of chaos, and the offense before did not have that.
Which I've been saying. People have been trying to say, oh, well, he only passed for 12 yards on his first drive. And I'm like, the offense went down the field. I don't care how the offense is going down the field. I don't need if the quarterback decides that running the ball is there, and it was, that what does that matter? It does not matter how you get the offense down the field. Now, I was frustrated that they didn't get in the end zone, but that's a different thing. That's neither here nor there. You didn't have Nick Chubb. You didn't have Jerome Ford. You tried to run 3 of those plays, and it just wasn't there. Okay. But after the preseason game, I've been listening to a lot of the press conferences, and one of the reporters asked Stefanski basically, were you comfortable showing Elijah Moore running the ball? And I think we all know this is common sense, but Stefanski reiterated, you're just seeing the tip of the iceberg of what we're doing offensively, right? And like, we all know that, but I think people were genuinely surprised to see like a little razzle dazzle, a little change, because there were follow-up questions about Kevin Stefanski's time with Percy Harvin and how does Percy Harvin compare to Elijah Moore. And I don't think they're the same player, but they both obviously have that type of ability to be like, when Stefanski had Odell and Jarvis, they got kind of funky where like sometimes they'd direct snap to Jarvis. Sometimes Odell would pass. Sometimes Jarvis would pass. They did a lot of interesting little gadgets.
Because they had guys that could create plays, could create explosive plays. And that was why I always said, like, they can do this. Like, Stefanski can do this.
Yeah.
He can make the most of what he has if he has it.
And that's I think the entirety of my point. Like, if you look at the Browns receiving core last year, you didn't have a guy that was going to be, because Jarvis and Odell were gone, right? And so you lost and Amari Cooper, was good. He had caught 9 touchdowns, and Donovan Peoples-Jones was good, but you did not have that razzle dazzle element that the Browns, that clearly Stefanski wants, and that the Browns now added back to your offense with Elijah Moore. And so, like, when people ask me, why do I have faith in Kevin Stefanski? I look at the skills that he has on offense and how Stefanski is utilizing them. And when you see him adapting and, moving Elijah Moore around like this, and what he did previously when he had Odell and Jarvis, like, I think there's a lot of evidence there that Stefanski is going to be just fine, because he does know how to utilize his talent. Sometimes you don't have those guys, and so you're going to be missing wrinkles. Do you think that's fair, Jacob?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you don't have those players that, like, okay, so when I've talked about Stefanski and defended him in the ways that I have, one of the things I come back to in 2021 was that those wide receivers, Jarvis was banged up. And when he was out there, I have some questions about some effort towards the end of the season. And I don't blame him because of the quarterback situation that was just deteriorating and eroding around him. But I go back and I look at those offensive, like those games, and I think to myself, like, these dudes are open. And these are not superior athletes. These are not natural separators. Like, you didn't have Odell. You had a slower Jarvis who was hindered by an injury all year. You had DPJ that was kind of thrust into your number one wide receiver role after only having 20 catches as an undeveloped rookie coming out of Michigan, where he just never developed. So he still was learning. And he was thrust into the position. And I see Higgins, who can't even find his way on the field after he leaves Stefanski, but had some pretty good production in 2020 and 2021. Hey, man, they were open. They were open. We had these conversations. We did these film rooms. We did these breakdowns. And it's like, these guys are open. If you're a bad coach, you don't know how to get dudes open unless they're doing it on their own. And he was scheming people open. So for me, it was like, well, we've got to find when it was clear. And I wanted a side note. Drew said he got the orange starter jacket for 80%. It was 20% off this week.
Let's go.
And then Jeff said it was one of the favorite things he owns. It's a great jacket. And Jeff, I see your other comment. I'm going to get to that in just a second. The one about Percy Harvin and Elijah Moore. So for me, that's why I kept last offseason and this offseason, especially when I was doing draft stuff, I was like, get me Josh Downs. Like Josh Downs was a guy for me. Like, get me this dude that is a creator, right? That he can take a five. And Josh Downs was also one of the better separators in that draft, in my opinion. I'm not saying he was the best, but he was up there. A 4.4 speed, he could create. He's just a natural separator. Understood how to. He only paid $34.
Let's go
for that. That's great.
Amazing.
But like, that's why I kept going at that stuff. Was like, Stefanski was not handicapping the offense. The talent was handicapping his ability because they were playing in the red zone. And I'm not the only person that said this. Far smarter people than me have said they were playing in the red zone all the time because they couldn't stretch the field vertically. So they were playing in a 20-yard box because they weren't winning downfield. Yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones blew by a couple of guys here and there because he's one of those guys his long speeds cannot be underestimated, because if so, he will blow by you. We saw that in like Tennessee and some things like that. But it's like,
do you remember when Baker at the Green Bay game, Baker Mayfield throws down the field to Donovan Peoples-Jones, who was double covered.
Yeah.
If your opponent is double covering Donovan Peoples-Jones,
that tells you everything.
You got problems, man. You got no disrespect to Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's not what you're asking. He's not your elite vertical separator.
Right. And that's my point, is like, a lot of these people are like, well, it's Stefanski's play calling. You can't call up plays you can't call up a play if you don't have the skill set to run that play. So a lot of these deep shot plays and things like that like the Chiefs run, they've got the personnel for that. Now the Browns have the personnel for it now, and that's what we're getting into. That's what we're talking about, this offensive evolution, where Elijah Moore unlocks all of these things because you saw some of these things already. And then not just him, but you've got Cedric Tillman. This is why I think Marquise Goodwin was so critical, and I just don't know what to think about that, because when I think about this offensive evolution, I think about him also going out there and running a bunch of go routes.
Yeah.
And if they don't have him, they're going to have to adjust some things. But David Njoku, I think, is the biggest benefactor from this style of offense, because he is a mismatch nightmare. Mm-hmm. And that is what they're trying to find ways to take advantage of, is, hey, we now start to have some of these things. Like, one, we have a creator at quarterback, a guy that can extend plays, can create yardage with his legs, not just by running, but by extending it and giving guys like Cedric Tillman. I talked about this a lot. Cedric Tillman came from a mobile system, that weird air raid system down there with Hendon Hooker in Tennessee. So he understands the scramble drill. When a quarterback runs, you work back, you work back towards the quarterback. So you're getting these things where you can throw him out there and he just elevates things because he creates. But with David Njoku, you're pulling, like, Amari can attack that short and intermediate, and he can attack deep too, but the short and intermediate, and so you're pulling some attention over there, and Elijah Moore is going to threaten to get vertical on you. He's going to threaten to run a screen, and you start playing towards that, and then all of a sudden, you've got David Njoku, one of the most athletic tight ends in the NFL, on some linebackers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a good point here by Evan. This is a good point. With Jakeem Grant, he can go deep too. He's that's his point, and that's a good point. And I've not had Jakeem Grant on my 53 all off season because of coming back, the age, and coming back, and them getting rid of all of it, coming back from the Achilles, and getting rid of all of his guaranteed money and all this stuff, which made him easily expendable. But he can get vertical. If Marquise Goodwin's not there, maybe you keep him, or you keep a Jalen Darden, you keep these guys that can stretch the field. But now you're seeing a situation where they can pull coverage to a side because you have to respect the verticality of guys like Elijah Moore and even Cedric Tillman and DPJ in terms of their long speed. They're not burners, but they can really attack the intermediate game. And if you're pulling some coverage over there because you don't want to be beat over the top, David Njoku can beat you over the top from the tight end spot. So can Jordan Akins. So you're starting to see this situation where they have the tools to spread out a defense. Not just pull coverage, but spread it out and really create one-on-one opportunities. And when you have a creator like Deshaun Watson at quarterback, you can exploit those one-on-one opportunities.
And I think just offensively, it's important to think about. So I don't think when Kevin Stefanski said we hadn't seen the tip of the iceberg of his offense, I think not only does it apply to what's building for this year, but I honestly feel like a lot of the vertical stuff, you could apply it to his entire tenure in Cleveland. Because let's think about it for a second. Stefanski's first year in Cleveland, Odell tears his ACL in week 7. His second,
it was
the Bengals. I think it's like week 7. Might have been. Roll with me.
It was something like that.
Second year in Cleveland, you trade Odell Beckham about halfway through the year. Third year through Cleveland, Baker can't throw deep anyway, and you don't have the skill.
Last year was the third year.
Oh, yeah.
You're thinking of the back half of after they got rid of Odell.
Yes, I am. Let's just summarize real quick. Stefanski has not had guys that can get consistently vertically open really through his entire tenure in Cleveland. So because you tried to patch that problem with Anthony Schwartz, right? And I think we can agree that that's not going to work. And you're trying to patch the problem with Marquise Goodwin, and so we're hoping that things can go well for him because I bet you if Stefanski was honest with you, he would have quite a rant about the fact that he continuously seems to find himself losing these guys that they bring in to give them some kind of true vertical presence. I mean, not like you're basically you're giving Anthony Schwartz every opportunity to show you that he can make this roster, and I think we know that. We know where that's headed. And you bring in Marquise Goodwin, who has been consistently good at this everywhere, and now he's got issues. And so maybe could Jakeem?
Maybe we're just not allowed to get like 4-3 guys.
At this point, it's so. I'm really hoping that Marquise Goodwin, or maybe it could be Jakeem Grant. That's a good point. I don't know who it's going to be, but I think that they are at some point going to have that consistent vertical threat. And we saw what happened when Deshaun Watson had Will Fuller, right? Will Fuller just ran straight lines down the field.
Thing.
He did one thing. and they scored a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah.
Off of that.
Well, it's just the threat, right? Like, and you haven't even been able to threaten that. And like I said, I know I said DPJ and Elijah or DPJ and Cedric Tillman, and they're not like burners. Mm-hmm. But my point was a big physical wide receiver that has good long speed with Elijah Moore on one side would draw attention. It was rattling around in my head, and I didn't articulate it very well. But yeah, like, that's the thing. You want to have multiples of these guys. And I don't know anything about if Marquise Goodwin, like any kind of, I don't understand blood clot. I know that it's a very, very serious situation. I have no idea if that's going to clear up, if he's going to play. I'm at least a little bit optimistic by the fact that they haven't really gone after a burner, so to speak. Like, and you can find them, and I know you're not going to find one with like the pedigree of Marquise Goodwin, but you can go find one that can run it. And maybe they wait for cuts and they add a guy because you don't really need him to do much other than to run really, really fast. But I think Elijah Moore, in and of himself, if he's healthy, he's a 4.4 guy. So I mean, he's fast. And so just putting him on one side is going to draw safety help over there. And I think that wherever he is, you're going to have to figure out where he is because they've made it very, very clear. Like, you got to know where Jamar Chase is. And I'm not putting Elijah Moore on Jamar Chase's level by any stretch of the imagination. I am not doing that. But you need to know where he's at. And they move him around a lot. They don't really put him in the backfield. But I think he could, if they wanted to put Jamar Chase in the backfield, I think he'd be just fine at that too.
Sure, yeah.
They don't do that, but he could.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they move him around, inside, outside, on an island by himself, in a trips and things like that. That's what the Browns are trying to do with Elijah Moore, because if you don't respect where he goes, if they put him on one side and they don't get safety help, okay, cool. We'll go burn him deep. If you do get safety help, we'll attack over here. The one-on-one, there's a linebacker covering David Njoku. And I've heard a lot from people that are there on the ground saying that Njoku has not been guardable very much. Apparently, they finally guarded him a little bit in Philly, and that's a really good defense.
Yeah.
But I know I'm all over the place right now, but I'm so excited about not just the influx of talent I think this offense has, but the diversity of it. You've got adding Jordan Akins, man, I've said it a million times. It is such an underrated move because he is not David Njoku level freak athlete, but he's an above average athlete at that. And listen, I see you guys over there saying that Anthony Schwartz stuff, and we're not having that conversation. I'm gonna respect it.
I still hope he can. I think it's a long shot.
Do you want me to tell you that I don't think the chance is zero. I'll just say that. I don't think the chance.
Let's play this game for a second. Can you imagine if Anthony Schwartz makes the roster? What Twitter will be like that day?
Like, I don't do as much on Twitter anymore because I'll open it and I'll be like, oh my God. I don't think I'll even open it if that happens. I'll open it solely for our group chat. I'll open a group chat. I'll be like, hey, how's the internet down?
Our friend Corey Kuza will have wait the day.
Actually, I think I would get on. I think I would get on there just so that I can watch Corey, just because. Go for it, man. I love the brand. But yeah, I think it's really encouraging what I've seen. I've seen them. I've seen them move Elijah Moore around a lot. He's running it out of the backfield. We saw him be productive at 18 yards. You saw the acceleration and speed. You tell me, have they had a guy like that? Just on that run, go watch his run, and you tell me, have they had a player like that, not named Nicholas Jamal Chubb because that's a different situation, but a wide receiver with that kind of the ability to turn the corner and go, okay, there's a lane, bam, I'm going to smash on the gas. No, they haven't. He hasn't had – Odell was the only one.
Yeah, I think of that Dallas game. Remember when he sealed that victory with was it a reverse?
Oh, it was a double reverse, and he ran really far back, turns that corner, accelerated. That's what they've been missing.
Yeah.
And they couldn't make it work with Odell, but now you're getting a little bit – he's smaller, but I think he's a little bit – I'm not going to say he's better. I shouldn't say that. He's better than what Odell is now, but,
Sure.
But I just think we've seen them diversify the run game. We've seen them diversify the skill set and the type of wide receivers you have. You have big physical wide receivers. You have guys like David Bell, who I think is a very reliable, gets open, catches passes. You've got Amari Cooper, who can do it all. You've got Elijah Moore that can really stretch the field. You've got David Njoku and Jordan Akins for in the red zone. You're seeing a very diverse skill set. We've said that a million times. But the diverse skill set evolving in the offense and going, hey, I got some dudes that I don't have to be in my bag every play and call the perfect play because I have players that can make the plays work. I don't need the plays to make the players work. And I think we've seen a lot of the plays making the players work in the last couple of seasons. And that's why it looks the way it looks, because you can't outcoach a lack of talent, a lack of skill talent. So even if Stefanski called the right play and it just gets botched, it looks bad. And I think we've seen a lot of that in the last couple of years. And I think in a preseason, when you don't show anything, you've already shown me something. And that tells you, like you said, tip of the iceberg. It's there. Jeff posted a comment earlier that Bo Bishop interviewed Stefanski and asked him about the comp between Elijah Moore and Percy Harvin, and Stefanski just smirked.
Yep.
I don't think they're the same player, but I think they'll be used the same. So if you want to see sort of how they're going to use Elijah Moore, I think go back and watch how Percy Harvin was used in Minnesota. If Percy Harvin had stayed healthy, we would have a very interesting conversation.
Percy Harvin was must-see TV. I had him on multiple fantasy teams, and when they caught lightning in a bottle with him, that was fantastic. I think Stefanski has the mind and the ability to maximize a guy like that. And so I'm drafting Elijah Moore in Dynasty everywhere I can get him. I'm so excited about what they're going to do with him. And I just want to say, I really liked your David Njoku comments, because I feel like if the middle of the field can open up, that is when David Njoku will really thrive. And he's never been in an offense that, like, last year was the first year we really saw the offense start to prioritize Njoku and like really emphasize him. And if you can get to the point where you've got guys taking the top off the defense and you let Njoku operate in the middle of the field, like what, he's 6'5".
I think he's 6'5", yeah.
6'5". Like he's 6'5". I mean, that guy is a freak, and I think he will, like, it would help the offense so much. So I think what I didn't even know entering this show is how much I want them to figure out whoever is going to stretch the field, whoever is going to do it, because you're talking about so many possibilities. And I just want to, I'm kind of in a little bit of a different direction, but I kind of want to ask you how you're feeling, because there's a wide receiver that's been building a little momentum with the Browns. He's 6'2", runs a 4.5 40, so he's not the fastest guy. But Austin Watkins, man, wearing the 80.
I just wanted to, real quick, Evan's comment that most of the wide receivers we have hadn't been scary after they caught the ball. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the point. And that's what Amari does that. But that's what I'm really talking about with Elijah Moore and his ability to be dynamic in the open field as a creator. Is like, hey, we need some people that can break tackles, make some people miss. And I think they've added some of that. With Austin Watkins, I go back and forth almost every day.
He's making some noise, man. He's making some noise.
He is. And at worst, he's going to be on the practice squad here or somewhere else. He may go somewhere else and get an opportunity to be on the roster. But it gets real interesting with Watkins, because he's not dynamic, but he can figure out how to get the job done. Like he does this one-handed catch today in a one-on-one rep, which obviously doesn't mean a ton because of the style of the rep. But I think it's kind of indicative of who he's been since he's been here. And that's a guy that just, like, I say this about David Bell. I said this about Jarvis Landry. I think he knows how to get open and catch the football. And I don't know that you can ever have too many people that can get open and catch the football. He's not going to be an elite separator.
Sure.
He's like 6'2", 210. He's bigger than you think he is. He
Yeah.
doesn't look as big as he is because he's always standing next to Cedric Tillman, who makes everybody look a little bit smaller. But he's a big-bodied wide receiver, and I think he just has reliable hands. From everything I've seen from him this year in camp practices and some things I've heard from people that are there, that, like, man, he just, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, who he beats out. He's like, they're not – I know people keep talking about cutting David Bell. They're not cutting David Bell.
Yeah.
They shouldn't cut David Bell. So right now you have 5 locked in stone. You have 5 wide receivers locked in stone. That's Amari, that's Elijah Moore, that's DPJ, that's Cedric Tillman, and David Bell. Those 5 are locked in stone. You can write them in permanent marker. They're going to make the roster, barring something where they get put on season-ending IR, that sort of thing. So I think they keep 6. I don't see a situation where they don't keep at least 6 because they're not keeping 4 tight ends. They're not keeping 4 running backs. So, like, you're not like taking a wide receiver to put it there. You're doing a much more pass-happy offense. You want to throw the ball. You want to be creative. So you need wide receivers. So I think they keep 6. If Marquise Goodwin is healthy, you can write his name in stone.
I think so too. I mean, I think that's that. But so then it's like, could you have 7? Is that possible?
I like keeping 7, but I also like that 7th guy to be special teams. I like that guy to potentially be my returner, unless you're really set on Demetric Felton, who looks a lot better returning punts, I might add. I'm no longer as like his rookie year and that second year, every time he would catch a punt, I'd be like, oh my God, is he going to catch? Like I was like crying, scared and terrified. And I will say that, like, I don't think he's muffed. He's not muffed one in a game yet. So
that's
like
true.
That's trending in the right direction, my friend. But I don't know. I want to find a spot for Austin Watkins. I even predicted after the first preseason game that he would make the 53.
I
said that.
Yeah.
But I keep sitting here and I think, and it's
tough.
Don't know where. I just don't. Who do you get rid of? Like, if Marquise Goodwin doesn't make the roster, you have an easier chance because I think they'll consider keeping 7. And if Goodwin is still hurt, then you look at maybe like, and Jalen Darden's hurt, then maybe you keep him. Because I think they want Felton to be the returner if it's not Darden or Grant. But you got to remember Jakeem Grant too.
Yeah,
like,
you're in like this triangle with.
I just don't know how he makes. I really wish it, but I can't find a spot for him outside of them keeping 7 receivers and Goodwin sitting out.
I think if Goodwin does sit out, so we'll see where that goes. But if Goodwin does sit out, I think you've got this triangle of Schwartz, Watkins, and
Grant.
Yeah, and Grant,
and even Darden.
Yeah,
you've got 4 or 5 wide receivers, 4, not counting Goodwin, trying to make 1 or 2 spots. And if Goodwin's there, those 4 might all be shit out of luck.
Yeah, and that's the tough part, which I think is
a problem to have. It's a great problem.
It's a great problem to have. So I think it's a credit. That's a credit to Andrew Berry building a wide receiver room that is going to support increasing the passing game. But I think if you get to that point where Marquise Goodwin is going to sit out for whatever amount of time, it's like this weird combination of Jakeem Grant battling back from the Achilles injury, Anthony Schwartz giving you the skill set you want, but not really being able to consistently provide it with contact. Basically, I think Anthony Schwartz looks pretty good until he encounters contact, and then for whatever reason, the ball just goes elsewhere. And that's
he's not been bad against contact in practice. Do you want me to tell you who he is?
Who's that?
Cade York.
So you're saying that
because Schwartz looked great. Yeah, he's looked great this week in Philadelphia.
That's okay.
And so is Cade York, and then Cade York and Schwartz get out on the game field on Sundays and they stake.
Yeah, I saw the report today that Cade York made every kick in joint practice. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so let me get on that for a second. Cade York, there are people that want to get rid of Cade York right now, which I don't understand because I don't think kickers just don't grow on trees. I know there's some options you could bring in as competition, but are we really going to cast off Cade York and just say, okay, let's put our hands in another guy who very easily could be in the same situation? Like because we're looking at Cade York and we're saying, okay, you've missed two field goals in preseason, so you should be cut. So what happens if you bring in whoever, I don't care who it is, and they miss a field goal against Cincinnati, right? Let's say they do. Are you going to say cut them then? Then what do you do at that point? So I just think it's prudent to, if Cade York's showing you it every day in practice, I'm not thrilled about it. I'm 100% for the kicking competition. I think that makes sense. I think you've got to do that. You've got to hedge your bets at this point. But Cade York is still displaying the ability to you. And if he and Anthony, it's not going to be a great time to be Andrew Berry here when these cut down days come, because these are some big decisions, and you've got two guys that are displaying ability. I mean, and the thing, we've talked about this with Schwartz all the time. You can't teach speed, and we literally spent the bulk of this episode talking about how important speed is. So, I mean, it doesn't super thrill me. Jacob, I think that's a great analogy. You've got two guys that, for whatever reason, when the lights come on, they just have a hard time.
Okay. So, if three people do the deed, it's called a threesome, right?
Okay.
So if four people do the deed, it's called a foursome.
Okay.
I now understand why people call me handsome.
That's pretty good.
It's a masturbation joke.
Oh, hey, there it is. I was gonna transition to breakfast soup or marshmallows.
Masturbation joke. Okay. I wanted to read this little clip from Dan Lobby over on Cleveland.com talking about today's joint practice with the Eagles. And I just want to read a little section of this because I thought it was very prevalent to kind of highlight. He said, last year, when you walked away from the joint practices between these two teams, you knew the Eagles were clearly better. This year, it was much closer overall. The Eagles were the more physical team on day 2. They came out on Tuesday to make a statement, and they did. They're a team that has won and came close to winning again. They know how to get it to another level. The Browns still need to figure it out, how to make sure they're the team sending messages on day 2, but they did send a message on day 1. The good news is they showed up this week and were able to match the Eagles' physicality, especially on day 1, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. They were able to rile the Eagles up enough to make Tuesday matter. The Eagles know what it takes to get where they and the Browns want to go. They took it up a notch on day 2 to deliver a statement. There was a lot of reports that the Browns had more energy on day 1 than the Eagles. They came out, they smacked them in the mouth, they played well, and they forced the NFC defending champions to smack back in the mouth. And it sounds like a lot of give and take in both of those sessions. And I mean, my point is, if you're able to rile up that good of a team, you got to be at least close to them.
Yeah, you know what? Philadelphia is a widely expected. I would say if you asked most people who the NFC favorite is this year, it's probably Philadelphia, right? So you're not exactly playing against any chumps. They were in the Super Bowl last year. You saw that they were there were fights today in practice. I think the Eagles did feel were in their feelings a little bit by the way that the Browns came out yesterday, which is a credit to them. I think of all the teams that you could play against with the schedule you've got in the first, 6 weeks, you need to play against a good team like that. You need to be on your toes. And so, I saw the reports today that the Browns didn't have as good of a day. If the Browns dominated the Eagles in back-to-back days, I genuinely, homer as I am, I'd be surprised. I mean, the Eagles are a great team. They've continually drafted well. They have one of the best defensive lines of football. They have one of the best offensive lines of football. I don't need to rave about them. My point is that the Browns are going up against elite competition. And so the fact that the Eagles won day 2, but you're in there day 1 and you're making a statement to them, I'm happy. I'm encouraged by that.
Yeah, I'm encouraged. They got a ton of pressure on Jalen Hurts, and that's a great offensive line. So that was the thing for me, and the takeaways. I feel even more excited about this. From what I have heard and seen from joint practices, the thing that I'm taking away the most is, man, I'm excited about this defensive line. Like I can't stop, man. We talked about this a little bit, and we'll touch here now on some things about the last preseason game, but as we get ready to wrap this thing up, and there's so many new faces out here watching us today, so thank you so much. Please consider subscribing to the channel, give a thumbs up. We're here every Tuesday night, and we've got content on this channel almost all week long, and we'll continue to up it with pre-game shows, post-game shows, winners and losers each week, some things like that. We've got a whole bunch of great stuff going on.
I feel like most YouTube channels probably give you a couple videos a week. Network 216, we've got 4 Brown shows, 5 Brown shows sometimes, depending.
Sure.
Avs, Buckeye, the Scarlet and Gray podcast just started back up. We were on a brief baseball hiatus, but we are up 3-0.
Because they depressed me, and I've decided not to record.
Well, it's a tough
real thing that happened.
But I just wanted to touch on Jim Schwartz and the defense real quick. And I know we're going to go in the defensive line, but Shelby Harris straight up told you yesterday that he picked the Browns because he wanted to play. He called Jim Schwartz's system the dream scenario for a defensive lineman. And I listened to that back a couple times because not only did it stick out to me, but it's more of the same that we've heard this offseason. We've heard Martin Emerson speak glowingly of it. Zadarius Smith, when he got traded, said one of the main reasons he was excited about Cleveland was because of Jim Schwartz's system. Myles Garrett's talked about how excited he is to be in it. And
the quote, sorry to interrupt, I just wanted to give you the quote.
Yeah.
So the quote they got, the quote, I wrote this up on Browns Wire, was the thing that really stuck out for him was,
look it.
I felt like out of all the teams I was talking to, they're the most primed to win. How can I turn down a chance to play with those guys up front and playing for Coach Schwartz defense? It's truly a D lineman's dream to play.
I mean, come on. So let's let's wind the clock back a bit. Did you hear Brown saying this type of thing about the Joe Woods system? I don't think so. I don't think anywhere near this type of hype or excitement. And you know what? Something I've learned over the last couple of years is when players speak, it's really important to, they're telling you things for a reason. And I've learned to take it a lot more weightedly. And so when all these guys are talking about it, when you see Zadarius Smith getting after it in the preseason game, and then you hear about, my favorite stat of day 1 is the Browns would have sacked Jalen Hurts on 25% of his dropbacks. And that is no slouch of an offensive line. And they got their stuff together on day 2. But it just speaks to what Jim Schwartz has got going on, what the Browns are building as a defensive line. And think about what happened last year when Myles Garrett was out. There were no sacks. There was no pressure. There was nothing. And now you've got this defensive line that's getting in Jalen Hurts' face. I'm excited, Jacob.
Yeah. That's the thing that I come away with. I'm just excited about this defense. I'm excited about the line. The line looked great against Washington without Myles Garrett. I said the thing about that with the defense, what I really liked about them on Friday was they didn't have Denzel Ward. They didn't have Myles Garrett. They didn't have Taki or Anthony Walker or Grant Delpit. And yet they looked like the starting defense. Yeah. And I was like, okay, you have Ogbo was looking really great. First play of the game, nearly tackle for loss. I think it was a tackle for no gain on the run game, that sort of thing. I just think I was very sporadic in today's episode trying to articulate. I hope I articulated properly, but
I think you did.
We'll see. But 2 weeks from tonight, next week we'll be getting ready for the final preseason game. We'll have that off week the week after. We will be bringing you our bold predictions for the Browns season, as well as some NFL bold predictions and maybe even some futures bets in there. as well. So we'll have that in a couple of weeks. I would expect Saturday night probably again will be the winners and losers from Thursday night's preseason game. Dorian Thompson-Robinson will start. Josh Dobbs and Deshaun Watson will not play.
Dorian.
So we're going to get Dorian for probably the first half, I would say. I think we'd probably get him for the first half, and then probably the second half will be Kellen Mond. But we'll see a lot of these young players out there again, more opportunity to evaluate some of these rookies. I think you should be excited. It's way too early to go far too deep into some of this stuff, but I think what I have seen and I've read, I think you should be optimistic that the offense is evolving the way we thought it was going to evolve. And barring some catastrophic injuries, they should be highly competitive this year.
I very much agree. You know what? I was thinking about this the other day because I was looking at the lines, and it's like the Browns are only a 1.5 dog to Cincy to open the year. And I feel like, Cincinnati's your back-to-back AFC North defending champ. They've got, I don't need to rave about them. I don't need to tell you about Cincinnati. You know how good they are. So the fact that they are just a 1.5 dog to the Bengals says something to me, because I would think if they thought there was a significant gap that the spread would be larger. I'm cautiously optimistic. I've reached the point of cautious optimism. I'm not screaming from the rooftops just yet, but I'll tell you what, if they beat Cincinnati week 1, oh, baby. Oh,
board the hype train.
Also, just as a side note, when I finish work on Thursday, I'm making a beeline to Philadelphia to go watch the Browns play. And people have asked me, well, why are you driving all the way to Philadelphia to watch the Browns play a preseason game? His name is Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and that guy is must watch, must see. He's fun. He's exciting. This has been one of the most fun Browns preseasons I remember. They just got talent. They've got fun. So I hope we see all kinds of more Dorian hype, because I don't think Stefanski's treating Dobbs like the primary backup, right? He's not even playing in this preseason game. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that Dorian's gonna be our primary backup like immediately. But I very much believe that guy has all the makings of QB2, and who knows what the ceiling is. He's just getting started. He looks the part.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. So with that being said, do we have any final thoughts, Jacob?
Yeah, make sure to change the batteries in your smoke alarms.
There you go. You leave with a little bit of prudence in your life. So thank you to everybody. This has been thank you to everybody, all the new faces, all the new people. From the bottom of our, thank you again. This has been episode 115. 115. Wow. Of the Barking Brown Show. I'm Nick. He's Jacob. Go Browns.
Crocodiles can't stick out their tongues.